Who are you?
My name is Kriss Smolka. Currently, I live in the Chicago metro area. The founder of Fun Media, uh, publisher of multiple health and fitness apps in the App Store. And for the last couple of years, I've been working on a book called Water Wellness.
Okay. So, and we're here about the book, and we'll get there. But I'm kind of curious about what do you mean by a fitness app publisher? Do you code the apps? Do you design them and have somebody else code them?
Okay.
What is an app publisher?
Well, I'm the one that kind of creates the entire product, and then I have a remote team that codes everything. I do all the design in our apps. One of our most used app is called Waterminder, which helps you stay hydrated during the day. And then also in the health and fitness category, we have different apps like for habit tracking called Habit Minder. We also released an app for calorie tracking called Calorie. So, we publish different tools for users around the world so they could stay healthy and fit.
Okay, that's interesting. So, why did you think this book needed to be written? Don't people just drink when they're thirsty?
Yeah, well, that's one point. The book is also to educate people a little bit more on hydration. Some people they don't feel thirst or they think that they're enough hydrated during the day. So that's the whole idea started with the Waterminder app, to help people drink more water during the day. Feeling thirst is a little bit too late, to keep the good level of hydration. So, drinking often during the day and split different time intervals is the best way. And as far as the book, it's just like an additional tool to educate people more on the hydration topic in a kind of a cookbook way where it's pleasant for the user to read, and then it kind of gives more value with our infused water recipes.
Okay, so could you go a little more into kind of the direct inspiration for the book? You said it started with the Water-Minded app, but was it just kind of something that grew on you, or was there one moment or one thing you saw that said, people need this book?
It grew on us, for a couple of years, as I mentioned. We've had the material, we've had different feedbacks from users, that there's a need for knowledge in this area. And we've done a lot of, research on that topic. And there isn't a book in this style because there are scientific books about hydration where with different studies, and they're like school books, right? They're a little bit boring, that I could say. And then I did a little bit of research in bookshops, for example, and there's nothing like that pretty much available in bookshops, where it's pleasant for the user and it's at the same time appealing and informative, and then it gives value to the reader. And at that point, we've kind of said, okay, let's create something simple. Like our apps are very simple and intuitive for the users. So let's create also a book that will educate and be simple to read, and at the same time give some benefit to the user. I mean, to the reader.
Okay, so your book is very beautiful. I had a look at it. It's got some wonderful photography. So can you tell me about how you got your photography done? Are you the photographer? Did you hire a photographer? Was it a friend?
No, we actually hired a photographer, a food photographer. I tried doing the photos on our end, but you have to have a specific skill to do a nice photography of food or water. So we've hired a photographer in Ireland, and then we worked out the recipes and the ingredients together, and did the whole project.
Okay, so when you were talking to your photographer, how much input did you give him? I mean, did you just send him a list of the ingredients and how to make it?
Yeah,
Or
just a list of ingredients. We talked over what type of recipes we are looking to show. And then the whole kind of a creative appeal to the photos was on the photographer's end.
Okay, very nice. So, if we can summarize your book, like, what is the driving point of your book?
Well, driving point would be, educate on the hydration topic. Treat it as a coffee book table, have it on your coffee table all the time, and be a little bit of a reminder that, oh, okay, I see this book and let's have a little sip of water. Does it make sense? Or
That it does.
okay.
So, what most books, like the self-help books, are trying to solve a problem. So can you just summarize quickly? I think you've kind of gone over it, kind of from the side, but what is the problem that your book addresses?
The misconceptions of hydration, as you mentioned in the beginning, that if you feel thirst, it's just a matter of feeling thirst and just have a sip of water. So, because that topic is, there's a lot of myths also in the hydration topic, and people don't know about how to stay hydrated. What are the benefits of it? So that would be kind of a summary of it, clearing out the misconceptions of hydration.
Okay, so what are some of these misconceptions that you felt the need to address?
Like for example, it's too late when you feel thirsty. It's a little bit too late for you to, at that point, drink a lot of water and hydrate. The goal of it is to spread out during the day. Also, how much water do you need? Do you need 8 glasses of water per day and that's it? It is a nice rule of thumb, and yes, but if you want to be more specific, you would have to take in consideration of your body weight, of your lifestyle, if you exercise, where do you live, in a hot or cold climate zone. So all of those little things get into the whole kind of a point, how to stay properly hydrated during the day. And then there are a couple things like if you have headaches, for example, or if you feel fatigue, that might be a trigger from being dehydrated. So people don't know about that as well, and the book also covers that topic. The reasons and how our body feels when it's dehydrated.
Yeah, personally, when I was a teenager, I discovered that I got depressed when I was dehydrated, because I'd get terribly depressed every time on the way back from a long trip to town, and I realized that I hadn't been drinking any water while I was out, because you're out, you're busy, and once I started drinking water, that pattern stopped, and I wouldn't get depressed at the end of a long hot trip. So that was kind of my sort of realization that there was more to this water thing than I knew of. So can you tell me a little bit about your background? How do you know all this stuff? What got you into this in the first place?
Well, in the first place was my wife. It was probably around 7 or 8 years ago when she had her second child. She had a lot of headaches. And then we tried to figure out, what could be the cause behind it. And then, I did a little bit of research. I don't have a medical background or anything like that. All of the data is thoroughly researched, and we use resources inside of the book. So, but as far as going back to the example, and I researched that, maybe she is dehydrated. So I asked her, how much water do you drink during the day? And she said, I have no idea. I drink a couple cups of coffee and that's it pretty much. So we've, did more research and then kind of, okay, let's try staying hydrated. She used a couple of different apps. They didn't work for her because it was too cumbersome for her to use. So that's when also the Waterminder app kind of idea appeared on my horizon, where I created a super simple way. Just press a plus and log how much water. It gives you reminders during the day. And she followed that for a couple of days, started to feel a little bit better, and got into a habit of staying hydrated. And that was kind of the root cause of getting into the hydration topic pretty much for me. And from there, when we published the Waterminder app, we've got thousands of user feedbacks that the app helps, different stories behind how our app helps after kidney procedures, after like you said, you didn't feel well. So all of that during the last 7 years, we've gathered hundreds of different stories. And it's amazing to see, how a tool like that help users pretty much.
Okay, so I've got a kind of a specific question for you. You mentioned one of your wife's primary intakes was coffee in the morning. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of back and forth recently in the water community about how much the diuretic effect of coffee and tea affects you. So have you done any research on the effects of caffeine and how that affects your water retention?
Yes, so there are studies on that, and recent studies say that the coffee hydrates, and not like, for example, pure water, but it still hydrates because it's water-based drink. It is a diuretic where you go to the bathroom more frequently, and that's what dehydrates. But the drink itself, it has some hydration into it. Milk, for example, hydrates you more because it has nutrients and it kind of absorbs the water longer inside of your body. So there are different types of drinks, and coffee hydrates, because let's say you just drank coffee during the day, and you would still be hydrated and your body would still be healthy, but you would just go to the bathroom more frequently.
Okay. And so my experience with what I guess you would call the water community is I work at elevation outdoors a lot. I'm outside basically 9 hours a day, hiking at high elevation. Does your book go into the difference that elevation plays in water retention?
Yeah, we mentioned about it's part of the elevation as well. Yeah, if you're on a higher level, you should drink a little bit more. But there aren't any like specific studies where you could say, okay, this is the X amount of more water that you should drink. We know that you have to say more frequently hydrated, but I don't have like exact data behind it.
Okay. So now let's talk about the recipes in this book. Why don't you just go to your tap and crank out a cup of water and slug it down? Why bother with recipes?
Just so it's not that boring, and you have a little bit of fun on creating different infused waters, and play and be creative with water. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So what is an infused water?
So infused water is mainly you put in the fruits. You could do it with vegetables as well, but mainly it's fruits. Let's say the simplest infused water would be cucumber and lemon. You have a lemon, you cut it in slices, you put it in a jug of water, let it stay for a couple hours, and then you pour it into your glass and enjoy a nice citrusy flavored cucumber water. It adds a little bit flavor to it with zero artificial flavors because all of it is natural. So that's also a nice benefit where you have actually natural nutrients in infused waters. So generally speaking, infused water is you prepare some different fruits that you like, throw it into your water, let it sit for a while, so the water kind of squeezes out the nutrients from the fruit or vegetables, and then you enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay, so from my own experience, I found that freezing fruit helps the infusion process along, and you get a lot more flavor. Does your book address that?
We do have some little recipe for infused ice cubes, where if you don't have time preparing your water during the day, you could have ice cubes with little pieces of fruit inside, and then whenever you're ready, just pop in that little ice cube into your glass of water, and it'll still kind of juice out the water a little bit. But yeah, that's a good thing. We'll have to try it out and freeze the fruit and then try it that way.
because from a botany standpoint, that ruptures the cell walls, and it allows you to infuse from the entire fruit instead of just the one that's getting osmosis effect from the surface of the water. So it basically increases the surface area that you can get the nutrients out of the fruit. So my personal favorite recipe, which is something that I just sort of developed over the time. Like I say, I work outdoors a lot, and when you come in hot, sweaty, and tired, sometimes you want something a little tasty. I like to take a handful of frozen blueberries and chuck it in some water with a little bit of lemon juice.
Okay.
Like I generally squeeze out about a whole large lemon if I can, and then I let it sit for a bit, and that's my favorite. So what's your personal favorite?
My personal favorite is just lemon and water. So while I fill up my glass of water, I just squeeze in a little bit of lemon into it, and that would be my favorite personal.
Okay, so where did you go for the inspiration for your recipes? Did you just sit down and think real hard, or what?
Well, we played around a little bit with the different fruit, and then we've also got some inspiration from the photographer. But mainly it was just like playing around, test it out, and see how it tastes. If it tastes well, let's put it as a recipe.
Okay, so
plus we wanted the the photo look appealing to the reader, and be colorful, because also plain water is pure, and if you put in the nice little fruits inside of it, the glass looks appealing and it tastes better. So it's kind of you're cheating your brain that it's actually a good drink.
Okay. So you made a lot of apps, and then you moved on to this print book. Is there also a digital version of the book available?
We do have a digital version available, but we're going to be starting with the print. Have an old school tabletop book, physical thing, because we're in a virtual way, meaning that we're working remotely. We have virtual apps on our phones, but having a printed, real smell of the book is what we're kind of trying to first promote, and then we're going to be releasing a PDF version as well.
So doing that, moving from this electronic world of apps in your virtual communication with your coworkers to a print book, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make as a publisher?
Well, not much. The whole book was created remotely, and it is just a matter of of having something printed. But as far as on our end, nothing was had to be adjusted. Yeah.
Okay, so what was that process? Getting a book that is so based in photography, that's a lot of color ink, that's very specific kinds of paper. How did you find a publisher, and who's your I guess your brick and mortar physical printer for that?
So our publisher is All Right Publishing. We've reached out to different, I've reached out to different agents, different publishing houses, and everybody was kind of a skeptic because hydration topic is not a hot topic. There are different books on keto diets that are popular. So a lot of publishing houses were afraid to take on this book and publish it under their wings. But we found All Right Publishing, and they're taking care of the print, and they were open enough to keep all the color inside of the book. Don't eliminate any of the photos, and keep it appealing as it is. Some other publishers wanted to do a black and white release, or just have a handful of recipes, or remove all the illustrations or photos that we have just to lower the cost of the book. But we didn't. I couldn't agree to it, because the whole point of it is to make the book beautiful and appealing to the reader.
Okay, so when you're talking about the water itself, you're talking about adding flavors, but do you address the water quality itself? Because some people simply can't drink tap water because they have lousy tap water. Some people have really great tap water. Do you address the source of the water itself?
So we mentioned, what are the different types of water? There's, tap water, there's distilled water, sparkling water. We kind of describe what are the differences between the different types of water, but we do not suggest, that this is the best water for you. As you mentioned, some people can't drink tap water, and some people might not be able to drink sparkling water because it could be too bubbly for their body, for example. So we describe what are the different types, and then it all depends on the reader to try it and see what suits best for their bodies and lifestyle.
Okay, so you mentioned that you don't have a background in medicine. Mm-hmm. What is your background?
So my background is IT, and I have a degree in IT and marketing. And then throughout life, gathered mobile app experience, and that's where we are, and passion to our hydration app.
Interesting. Okay, so as you've been working with this process, what particular challenges have you found in the perception of what you're selling? Because I know a lot of people are a bit leery of anything they consider just another self-help book. So have you found any resistance to your book, to your creations, on the grounds that it's just another one, it's just another leaf in the pile, as it were?
Well, right now we don't have any, we're in a very initial stages of publishing the book. So right now we don't have any kind of feedback on that specific area. I'm the kind of a person that you have to try to see if it works. So we're kind of at that point. We'll see what's the audience going to say about the book.
Okay.
And the market, pretty much.
Okay, so speaking of the market, let's talk some details. How much are you asking for the book?
So that is still, to be determined, but the book would be in a range of $14.99 to $25.99 US dollars. But we are still determining the final price.
Okay. And can you tell me anything about your marketing strategy? Where do you want to put this book?
So, well, the goal would be to put it in major, bookstores, and kind of upfront to the reader, if it's the printed version, right? Because as far as the ebook, we can market it based on the audience's likings. So, but initially, the bookstores would be our goal for the first phase.
Okay. Have you given any thought to health food stores? Because I know, at least in my area in the Pacific Northwest, any store that sells vitamins, minerals, it's going to have a pretty decent sized bookshelf, which is full of just this kind of book.
No, I haven't thought about that. So that's a good idea. We've thought about different healthcare facilities, let's say, or different like in a dentist, for example, where you're waiting and you can have a little book and read it while you're waiting for your turn. But that also depends on our publisher, what they decide to do first, and we'll have to see what's in their kind of a plan.
So what does that relationship look like in this day and age between you and your publisher? What duties fall to you? What duties fall to your publisher? It wasn't you who reached out to me for this interview. You have, I'm assuming, an agent. So can you tell me a little bit about what that whole process, who's your network for this publishing?
So Allwrite has their own kind of a network and relationships. The person that reached out to you was from a marketing company that markets different books, and they try to get in touch with different media. So we have a lot of communication and ideas. It's between the publisher, which is my agent as well, and then the marketing company. So it's like it's a three-person conversation, pretty much. What's the direction of the book, and then we brainstorm and try to see what works.
Okay, so if there was one thing you could have done differently in this whole process, what would that be?
Start finding an agent sooner. Because what we did is we created the book first, and we curated the designs and everything, and then we reached out to the to different publishers and agents with the ready book. So I would start looking for a representative in that area a little bit sooner, so we could get more feedback on how the book should look. We didn't make any changes to the end product, but you know, just starting that relationship. This is my first book that's going to be published, so also, you know, learning a lot of you know, how the whole publishing works, also kind of got a leg into it. So because we have the book ready for about more than a year right now, and all of this delay is because we couldn't have a good publishing house or somebody that could represent us publishing the book. Okay.
So for anybody else looking to publish a book, what would you say would be the one thing, one thing they should know, one thing that you didn't know before this started, other than the agent thing? What is one thing you would tell to an up-and-coming somebody who has their own book they want to get out?
Well, right now, just that agent that comes to my mind, because you know, if you want to publish in a big publishing house, they don't accept cold call, you know, conversations or emails to them. You have to be represented by an agent, and that's the thing that I didn't know. So that would be thing. And then research the cost of the book. You know, if you have a lot of color, then the cost of printing is going to be, you know, higher, of course, and then which takes an effect on the sales price.
Okay, so, and that's good information for about the publishing side of things. So we're getting down in time here. So if you had just kind of one final thought that you want to get out that kind of expresses why you published the book, what you put into the book, what's kind of your thought to the world about this book? What are you expressing?
So, you know, like I'd love to, you know, educate as many people as possible, you know, why hydration is important and why do you have to stay hydrated. You know, people are aware of, you know, dieting, different diet apps that if they follow a nice diet during the day, you know, their body's going to feel better. But also, they are missing. A lot of people are just not educated well in the hydration area. So, you know, I like to, you know, educate as much as possible through the book. You know, and also the target of the target audience is that somebody that's not tech savvy and they're not even using an app, or they're not, you know, inside of a computer, or they can't have electronics. So that's why, you know, having a book like this could also be a medium of education, why to stay hydrated.
Okay. And looking at my notes, I realized I kind of forgot one question from the content section. My experience with hydration education has been almost all hiking, especially hiking long term, like you're going to be out for 3, 4, 5 days at a time. Does your book kind of assume someone's at home in an apartment where they have access to clean water, or do you address like the purification of and how to get tasty water when you're 3 days into a hike on the Pacific Crest Trail?
So we don't cover that topic, and that's a interesting, you know, question because and a very strong one, because you might not have a good source of water, and you know, drinking from a river or from a would be better than from a pond because it could be, you know, polluted. And that's a good question. Maybe we could add it into a revision of the book, where we could educate on the sources of water as well, and what to watch out on, because you can't take 5 gallons of water during your 3-day hiking trip in your backpack, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for this question, because it kind of gave me an idea also on expanding that topic a little bit and do some research on it. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you're hiking, it boils down to how much weight do you want to carry versus how much money do you want to spend on a filter. And
so how do you handle that situation in your case?
In my case, I'm fortunate enough to work in Crater Lake National Park for the most part, And we have sources of water readily available, and we're usually not too far from our trucks. But we do have teams that go out into the backcountry, and usually they carry some water in the truck, and then they'll take water filters with them because the park can afford a good water filter. And a good lightweight water filter can pump out several gallons of water fairly quickly.
Okay.
So, and again, it's a national park, so our water sources are very pure to begin with. And so the water filters aren't under a huge burden. There's not like a ton of dirt in the water that's going to clog the filter really quickly. And we do have just some of the purest water in the world in that park. So, but usually your choices are either iodine tablets, which kill anything that will kill you, but don't remove chemical toxins. A really good filter is going to cost you a lot of money. A cheap filter might not get everything. It's a whole educational process that most hikers, they go through it pretty fast, or they suffer the consequences of not going through it pretty fast. So it's all about balance and figuring out what your resources and your time and your physicality will allow.
Okay, good.
And yeah, if you're looking for more research in hydration, I'd really suggest looking into the long-range hiking and camping communities, because it's literally a matter of life and death for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
okay.
It's been wonderful talking to you. If I could just kind of wrap up, give me your name and the title of your book and when people can expect it.
Yeah, well, thanks for interviewing me. My name is Kriss Smolka, and we'll be releasing a book called Water Wellness. You should expect it in the late spring or summer this year. And
where can people find this book?
Well, that's a good question. I have no idea right now.
Will your publisher be putting it up on Amazon?
It'll be on Amazon, yeah.
Okay, so that's one guaranteed place, and hopefully coming to your bookstore near you.
Exactly.
So it's been great talking to you, Kriss. I hope to talk to you again. Have a great day.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Betty.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.